Good? Okay, great. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. Well, that was right on time. Thank you, Dan. Okay, great. So we just heard a lot overview of V3 and V4, and we brought in a bunch of community members here today to go in details about these topics. So I will get started by having everyone introduce themselves. I can introduce myself first. My name is Kevin Liu. I'm a Apache Iceberg committer and open source contributor. I currently work at Microsoft on OneLake team. I'm here to be a moderator for today's discussion, and we have 4 guests. So go ahead.
My name is Talat. I'm working for Google for, in general, it's open source Iceberg related things, but my main team is that Big Lake product, which we try to support the Iceberg for our customers.
I'm Sihan. I work on Databricks, and right now I work on Apache Spark. But I'm an Apache Iceberg PMC member. I worked on Iceberg a lot in Apple.
Hi. Hello, my name is Sean. I currently work at AWS. On the AWS EMR, my main job is to support data lake workload on top of EMR. For the past few months, my main focus has been on the Iceberg Rust.
Hi, I'm Steven. I'm a software engineer from Snowflake. I'm a PMC member of the Apache Iceberg.
Great. Can everyone hear in the back? Yes? Great. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, so Dan already gave a great overview of all of the things that are going into V3, as well as some of the things that are going into the spec as for discussion for V4. So let's talk a little bit in details about some of the things maybe you can't really read online or it's not available on the documentation yet. As part of this process, we realized that there's still a lot that we need to document. So this is a great opportunity to get it recorded, to follow the PR, and then get a lot of these things documented. So let's just start, right? So just to level set, what version of Iceberg are we on now?
We are using as a default V2, right?
Yes. So a lot of engines by default currently read and write V2 table format for Iceberg. Okay, well, what does that mean to write a V2 versus a V3 version?
My understanding is that V1 and V2 is basically just the making the core is as much as possible strong. Then V3 is bringing the new data types, and also the write and the read, the performance optimization with the delete vector.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I should mention that also, for V2 it's totally about merge on read and those kind of things. But V1 is it was just the copy on write kind of approach.
Yeah. And is there a specific reason why we, instead of adding features, let's say, to V2, we say, okay, let's go and do V3? Oh, yeah, I'm just looking at you, but you guys feel free to answer.
So I think traditionally the Iceberg community has been, just table format has been versioned. And this is talking about the table format version. There's other versions for the view format, catalog format.
Yes.
But this is talking about table formats, and it's just a guarantee that if a writer is on V1, then a reader still on V1 can read everything that writer does.
Yes.
And so if you can add some feature that's backward compatible, it's okay to add it V1. But most of the features, like for example, a new type, like a geotype, if you add it in V1, a V1 reader won't know what this is. It would just just suddenly see something it doesn't know.
Right.
That's why you need to version it. Maybe jumping in, but I think there's actually some nice talks about maybe Iceberg community is a bit too conservative in how slow it rolls out versions. Maybe you could decouple a little bit, have a read version, write version, similar to what Delta Lake has. I think last time someone talked to me about the idea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, currently that's the conundrum we are. We go V3, and then everyone either moves to V3 or chooses not to.
Gotcha.
And the problem is, if you don't move up, then you're kind of stuck in the V2 world, and you not interact with the V3 clients. But that's the world we have today.
Gotcha. So the idea is to be signaled that, hey, this is backwards incompatible. These are new features. They won't be available if you use the previous version. Gotcha. And you touch up on a really interesting point, and I get this question a lot, which is what is the difference between a table version and say something like Iceberg REST catalog? There's no version, but how does the table version interact with something like an Iceberg REST catalog?
Iceberg table format is about how we store the data, right?
Yes.
The REST catalog is how you can actually access where the table is,
Yeah.
how you load the table. So that's why REST catalog version and the table version are totally orthogonal things.
Gotcha. So if I have a Iceberg REST catalog already and I have V2 tables, does it automatically work with V3 tables?
Yeah, I think that it should, yeah.
Yes, because it is decoupled, right?
Yeah.
Like the Iceberg REST catalog is just sending metadata. It doesn't really understand whether it's V2 or V3.
It depends, if your REST catalog provider doesn't support the V2 or V3, and
Yes.
basically it will not work that. You need to check with, whatever the REST catalog implementation you are using, that, it's important.
Gotcha. Yeah. There is a separation of concern between how you can version your tables and how you can version your catalogs, right? Okay, great. I just want to get that out of the way because that's been a common question that I see a lot. Let's talk a little bit about some of the V3 features. I know Dan has already mentioned a few, but if you were to give an overview of, we did all the effort to upgrade into a new version, what are the important features that are in this new upgrade for V3?
Sorry. So I think there are a bunch of important features like deletion vectors and row lineage are some of my favorite features. But I think there are also many implications that come along with those features, that, as in that there are Iceberg Spec is forward compatible. Once you have a new V3 writer, write some data, deletion vectors to a table, there's no way for a V2 reader to read that table. So I think that's something that people need to be very cautious about.
I am very excited about the V3, specifically like geolocation. I know it's not implemented, it's on spec. I just want to, to emphasize that.
Yes.
But it's kind of unique for any open source project. The most of the open source project, they don't have the geo-related, the features. Iceberg has that. At least it defines a spec and it can be, available in soon. Yeah.
Thank you for that, because we spent a lot of time on the adding geotype to V3, and I think, it's definitely like a totally different world than the other data types. Has a lot of edge cases. To Kevin's point, you want to know, like, behind the lines, like, I think geotype is lagging a little bit in the implementation just because there's so much complexity, I think.
Right.
The spec is one thing, but now the engine needs to implement reading and writing, and there's still questions because geotype is a little bit beyond other types. Like, different engines can interpret geodata differently unless they have all the metadata, like CRS, coordinate reference system, interpolation algorithm for edges. There's like so many things. And there's still debates right now, like about whether we support some case, to support this, we have two types, like a geometry and geography type,
Yes.
which is already kind of like, but like in order to get everyone on board, we needed to have these two types differentiate. And now people are asking, but I want some of the feature of geometry with some of the feature of geography. Can I do that? And that's something like, so things keep popping up that I think make it a little slower than other types, but I'm definitely very excited about it. I think like most of the ecosystem is moving on to geo. And I think at Iceberg, I think I looked around and we're actually much more advanced than a lot of the engines are supporting because we just had so much geo experts come in and talk about use cases that,
Right.
to be honest, like 90% of engines don't even need to support now. But like the fact that we're so future-proof, I think was really cool for me to see that.
It was my problem, in my early careers, I worked with the real estate stats company, and at that time there was a Hadoop, and we were dealing with that geolocation related things. The only, at least at that time, the only solution was that PostGIS, the PostgreSQL geolocation related things. That's why I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. I think one of the things I'm hearing is that there's a difference between what is already in the V3 specification versus what is in the implementation, right? So we're talking about all of these features for V3 tables. There's a specification that is already defined, that's already been ratified and shipped, right? They're on the website now. It's part of the table specification. We're modifying it a little bit here and there, but the general understanding of what we're adding is already there. Right? It's not like I can go back to V3 and propose a new type, right? So that door has closed. But now, just because we finished with the specification, there's still a lot of work to be done with respect to, okay, well, how will this be implemented? How would this be productionized? So can we talk a little bit about, what the current status of that is, right? Like 1.10 for Iceberg was just released. Thank you, Stephen, for being the release manager. So what does that look like currently, as of today? What are some of the features that we support as part of Iceberg 1.10 release? What are some things that still needs more work and still need some contributions from, hopefully, the community? Feel free to jump in to talk about a little bit of the nuances.
Yeah, I think currently I think a lot of people may overlook is that specification is one thing, and down there are implementations and engine integrations. And under there are also like sub-project supports. Like you have with Spec, but I don't think Apache Iceberg has support a lot of the feature. I think Apache Iceberg only supports the EVV support right now. Sorry, I'm going backward, but basically for the engine side, I think Spark 4 probably covers most of the V3 specification right now. But for the Flink and Trino are just getting started.
I think, there's many things. One thing, going back to the geo thing, we can't declare victory just because you have the V3 spec out. Even in the geo spec, just take an example, there's many things in the spec that are kind of like, the way we do it is we make things kind of optional, like, we have these bounding boxes, and if your engine understands this particular CRS, then you can write a bounding box. So even like different engines' level of support for the same V3 feature could be different. And then the idea is we try to do it in a backward compatible way so that if your engine doesn't understand the bounding box, it could still read the data, just not in an optimal way.
Right.
So that's just one thing. But I think overall, I'm pretty happy, especially Spark community. I think we were working with, I was working with Huaxing, and I think because now Spark, has the preview release, that helps a lot. And then Huaxing was ready with Spark 4 support before Spark 4 was even launched, just because we had this preview process in Spark. And I think that's probably how I would hope more, as the ecosystem grows, more collaboration between open source communities.
Yeah.
I think Parquet is also one thing that could speed up a little, because a lot of the features in Iceberg depend on Parquet release, and then we depend on Iceberg release. So maybe a more streamlined release process through all the open source the libraries could speed this up, but that's just my thought on it.
Yeah.
I just want to emphasize one thing. I know this V3 adaptation I was looking at in general. In Google also people are asking me some of the features. I want to share that when we do the spec, basically there's multiple steps. The spec has to be implemented in the core, then the inside of the engine itself. Even engine has multiple layers, such as Java implementation, SQL, the DCL implementation. Just other day I was looking for V3 spec adaptation page. I was creating for Iceberg as a documentation. Just I learned from among yes, we are supporting default type, but in Spark, but it's not available for SQL layer. That's why the V3 spec adaptations may take a little bit longer, but at least if the features are, if you're interested in the feature, feel free to contribute or test that, and then you can make our spec is more reliable and more mature.
Yeah, if we use V2 as a kind of reference point, the spec probably was voted maybe 4 or 5 years ago, or not until last year it was actually the default format in the Java.
Yep.
So the adoption process, the implementation, adoption will take a bit of time for it to mature.
Yeah. It takes time to mature, right? I'll give you one example. Apache Iceberg still can't write positional delete files, right? And that was part of the V2, and that shipped a long time ago. So for V3, we just got started, and I think the takeaway is that we all came together to define the specification, and now we try to implement as much as possible in the core Java library, right? That's kind of our base of reference, and then Spark will be kind of the referencing engine that will have most of the features. And then, sub-projects, the Python project, the Rust project, Go, C++ will, adopt and figure out their own implementation eventually. Okay, I do want to point out a kind of nuance of using V3, right? So if you take a step back, take off your hat as like contributors, as coders, right? When you think about usage, right, and adoption of V3, what are some of the implications of saying, hey, today I'm going to go to my production pipeline and just make my V2 table V3, right? Or like if I want to try out V3 right now, I just start creating a new Iceberg table that's V3. Like what are some of the things that, as a user, I should know about using V3 at this time, at the current time? Feel free to jump in, anyone.
Yeah, I think first is am I waiting for some new features that I want to try? And also you think about the ecosystem. Hey, if I upload table to V3, would the, let's say, data consumer be able to have the tool or engine to read this table?
Right.
So that would be the, to really think about.
Right. So are you saying that if I start creating a V3 table, right, I have to think about all of the engines that I am interacting with and whether or not they're capable of reading and possibly writing V3 tables too?
Yeah, I think to answer the question of how you should upgrade to V3 table, I think the short answer is always like depends on your own data system.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some general advice as already covered by Steven. I think the basic rule of thumb is like you have to find the weakest link in your data system that weakest link the least V3 specification support. For example, if you're using like a Trino reader in your system, I would not really recommend you to just upgrade to V3 right now.
Yeah.
It's like also if you have like reader-writer setup, it's always better to upgrade the reader / consumer first.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'm a little torn on this one. I mean, obviously, to be safe, you need to make sure all your engines can support this version. But I think on the other side, like for example, coming from Apple, like where we had control over all the engines, upgrading is not that as terrible as you may think it is. Like people used to have the impression when I go to V2, like, it's going to start writing deletion files, and then like, what I do with. But like, actually, these are all opt-in features. Like, you can still run existing pipelines on V2 tables, V3 tables, always obviously assuming all your engines support the V3.
Yeah.
So you can do it incrementally. Although V3 does have some new features that are not opt-in. For example, I think row lineage means that you have to.
Right.
So keep an eye on those. But for the like new types, for instance, it's not like you start writing geotypes automatically unless your engine supports it.
Yeah, and in my view, if you are happy with the V2, you don't need the upgrade or to start using the V3 because all of the features are available for you. But if you are looking at specific features, and of course, I agree with all of the panelists, you need to make sure that all of the engines are supporting, all of your readers are able to read that specific feature and that behave the same, and you can upgrade your writers. Writers upgrade is the last thing is you need to do that.
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing is that it should be an informed decision, right? Like part of the value prop for Iceberg tables is the interoperability. So if you change your table that is backwards incompatible from 2 to 3, know what the ramification of that is.
And I think really like this idea, now that I'm thinking about it, like it makes a lot more sense to have reader and writer versions. Just because
going to go home and start writing a proposal.
No. This is like a big bang right now. Like the engine has to implement everything in V3.
Right.
You can't just choose, I know this feature, not that feature. So,
right.
But I mean, that's just.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as part of prepping for this, we already started a PR to say, okay, what are some of the information that we should post on the Iceberg website that users should be aware of, and we'll keep it up to date as we're implementing more features, as we release more versions. Yeah, so that's a really good thing to be aware, because it's not as simple as, I just change 2 to 3 and I get all the great features and, everyone lives happily ever after.
I just want to chime in, we discussed about the upgrade and, it may sound like difficult, but it's actually very easy, like alter table format version equals to V3. It means that just you upgrade your table, existing table, creating the new table is also easy.
Right.
Today, Iceberg user doesn't specify format major because the version is 2 and it's default.
Yeah.
But if you want to use the V3, you just need to specify on the table properties.
Right.
Format dash version equals to 3.
So it's an easy operation to do.
Yes.
But there's a lot of implications with doing it. Yeah. Okay. So I do want to take some time to talk about V4 as well. Some of these topics are still ongoing, right? We have single file commit. We have to sync about it, I think, every 2 weeks or so. It's on the Iceberg dev calendar, so go to the website if you want to join the calendar and be a part of that conversation. If there are any kind of specific topics that about V4 that you guys would like to talk about, maybe some of the things that are already in flight, some of the ideas that are being thrown around in the dev list, anything you want to add around that?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I think the V3 spec was closed probably a few months ago, and there are a few very exciting proposals or some ideas have been discussed in the community. I think some of the proposals are pretty mature. They have been discussed extensively in the community with broad consensus.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are just ideas that are in very early stage discussion. They may or may not make the V4.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first 3 proposals I'm very excited about, they're about the metadata, of the Iceberg metadata, because since the inception of Apache Iceberg, the metadata structure has remained the same, right? And but we have learned what kind of some of the design choices worked and what didn't. So so we're taking fresh look at those choices and kind of revisit those metadata structure. The first one is related to the writing the manifest file using Parquet format. Initially, Iceberg always requires writing manifest and manifest list file in every format. Because the assumption is that we typically read the metadata entirely, we don't need to do column projection. But that also leads to some of the design choices, like we store the column stats here as a map. But with every file format and map, if you have query that requires stats for only a single column, you have to scan the whole map for all those columns and extract the stats you need. So if we have like a column file form like Parquet, it probably can be more efficient. That's one of the proposals from Russell, is to have the using manifest at the Parquet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The second proposal is, I think Dan mentioned that earlier, is related to the column stats, right? So today we store column stats using field ID, so like some binary blob. But that have some serious limitations. For example, it's highly efficient on disk storage because of map structure, and they also have the large memory footprint during scan planning. And we also may have because we don't have type information stored in stats, so they're only like a binary blob, so we may lose some of the type inference. And also, we may also cause a problem for schema evolution if we are widening the type from the integer to a long, etc. So that, I think the Edward and Dan Wick, they're driving those discussions, and I think the basic idea is to, instead of a map, we're using a well-defined struct to capture the column stats, which would be more efficient and address some of those problems.
Mm-hmm.
The third proposal is what we call the one-file commit or adaptive tree structure. So I don't know if you look at the Iceberg homepage for a long time, Iceberg was called the open table format for a huge analytical data set.
Yep.
It was designed to solve those big data problem. At Netflix, there are a lot of huge problems we just saw. So some of the design choice is geared toward that, try to make sure the scale. Mm. One of the notable choice is that we have the 2-level fixed tree structure.
Yep.
We have manifest file, manifest list file. So that can really scale well. We can have table with petabyte data and also millions of data files. But they're also suboptimal for small tables or like small writes of the table. So yeah, one of the proposals is working on is called adaptive tree structure, where there will be no manifest list file, there will be a root manifest file, and it can contain the data file entry directly. But if the root manifest file grows too big, we can spare the entries to a leaf manifest file. Right? And this kind of adaptive two-level tree structure can give us the best of two worlds. We can scale well to petabytes of data, but it can also be efficient for small tables or small files.
Yeah.
So I think multiple folks from Snowflake and Databricks were working together on this adaptive tree structure. It is a fundamental change of the ISO metadata, so it's going to be a big change. Yeah, so there'll be a lot of effort on that.
Yeah. That popular graphic of iceberg tree with the snapshot, and that's going to go away potentially for V4. And I think a lot of this is from usage, right? Like we start off with like huge analytical data, and it's like, well, what if you have like a small facts table, right? Like maybe I don't need that tree structure in order to traverse that table. So we're a little bit out of time, but I do, as a last topic, want to figure out, how can the community contribute, get involved, read about what's going on, propose their own ideas, anything that you would recommend people to start, where to start to kind of get involved more with the V4 discussion.
So I was still sorry, I was stuck on the last question. Like I was gonna say I was excited about relative paths, but that's cool. Like, I think on that one, just
there's a relative path proposal.
No, because that one's been there. Like the problem has been there since Iceberg for like 8 years.
Yes.
And we spent so much time fixing it, and then I was surprised to see so many people interested in our PR. Like we made the PR from Apple, and then like so many people jumped out of the woods saying, "Oh, this is a problem we had too." So I think relative paths is really cool.
Yeah.
But I think so. Your question is how do people get involved, right?
Yes.
So I think can't say it better than Dan. I think he had that nice graphic. But just I think just going to the discussions, going to the dev list, going to Slack, expressing your problems. Probably like use cases is probably the thing that's would help a lot. I'm also really excited about a lot of these bigger proposals, but I'm a little struggling to see how to make progress on them. Like some of these really cool things like maybe wide tables or indexes for like AI use cases, I think really could help maybe make help with from some of the people from people who build products already to solve this problem. Like I feel like Mooncake Lab, right? They already did OLTP on Iceberg. Maybe like have this guy kind of like help out, or like have people who are doing AI like specific workloads like come and maybe because in Iceberg we're kind of like a little bit like maybe more mainstream developers focused on ETL. Maybe it would be cool to bring some of these people from different communities into our syncs, something
Right.
like that. So.
Yeah.
I believe Iceberg all do one critical things like the setting up the community syncs as a Google Meet, and the people start seeing that like a company or stand up, they start discussing about that. Because I have been the open source community for many years, and most of the issue for the newbies or the new users, like they don't know how they are going to join the mail list, or they don't know how they are going to track the mail list. But at least if you start attending and start listening to that, the community things, it will be helpful for you. And also being active on Slack is another thing, because previously there wasn't Slack, everything is go to mail list, and you have to read whole long, the text to understand what the author is trying to say to you.
Yeah.
No, Slack is just very convenient. I just, send a message to someone and get response immediately, rather than explaining so many things on the mail list.
Yeah.
I think, was there some idea in Apache to use like AI to kind of help summarize some of these like community tribal knowledge? I don't know if like in Iceberg we thought about that.
Because the UI is not the best to interact with
Maybe
on the dev list.
You can make like an LLM or something to like answer like why something is like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll go one point that Jihan mentioned about the use cases. I think there's a lot of kind of ideas people are talking about. Sure, we can implement all those ideas, but unless there's a strong need, strong use cases, we have to think what we should take in. Because if we just implement every idea, then Iceberg will become monster. Right? We
Right.
have if you have some use case you want to bring up, or if you say, hey, this is a good idea, solve my problem,
Right.
what's your opinion, chime in and provide us perspective would be super helpful.
It's a collaboration effort, right? Yeah. See, so there's a lot to do. A lot of V3 implementation still. Already talking about V4. A lot of stuff kind of already on the way. We're out of time, so I do want to thank everyone for being here. And thank you guys for showing up today as well. There's a full half day of agenda. And yeah, thank you. I think it's time for a breakout room. And one last thing, I just want to say that there are a lot of organizers for this event. They all put in a lot of time and effort behind the scene. So if you see someone working really hard today, thank them, because it took a lot to make this happen. Thank you. Yes, 1 minute.